Today's video is a highlight reel of a podcast that we did with the guys from Enduro. Mike and Andy came here, we sat down, we talked for ages, about 45 minutes, and you can watch the entire thing over on our podcast channel, which I've linked down in the comments below. However, in this video, I want to show you some of the highlights and add some more commentary for those of us that aren't complete bearing nerds and just want some good solid advice. All right, let's get into it. I'd like to introduce Mike and Andy from Enduro Bearings. Thanks for coming over. Mike, you've come from France.
Yeah, I have. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, obviously, we know you from what we see on your YouTube channel and stuff like that. And so it's a fantastic opportunity just to come and just chat about stuff and listen to what you got to say.
I think you're being brave. I've got some tough questions for you here. And Andy, you work here in the UK, so you're the mechanics that represent or work in workshops around the UK. You're the point of contact for us.
Pretty much, yeah. So I work for the UK distributor, and I basically do a bit of training for dealers and all around.
Before we got started, I asked them to reflect on their experience of the cycling industry over the last 15 years. My own experience, like Mike's other bike shops, saw us navigate our way through cup and cone bearings throughout your bicycle, and now into the point where cartridge bearings like these literally dominate the entire bicycle scene. And Enduro were one of the market leaders until other bearing manufacturers came along that you might have heard about, like Ceramic Speed, Kogel in the cycling industry. And of course, we've seen other more industrial type brands like NTN and SKF enter the scene as well, possibly under the influence of someone called Hambini.
Enduro came on the scene back in 1996.
Yeah, it's about the time of hope. And
yeah, that's right. And, you know, and the first bearing, as you quite rightly say, was we introduced what's called the max bearing, the max complement bearing for suspension pivots, and that was really where it all kind of started, you know. And you know, with something like this little suspension pivot here, which is full of balls with no retainer and stuff, and so that's really that was a starting point. And I don't know whether it's interesting about the actual inspiration for this.
I never knew that actually. This has got to do with forklift trucks.
It has.
It makes so much sense.
So basically, so Matt Harvey, the co-founder of the company, we have an industrial division as well. And the company made, and still makes, big bearings for like forklifts, up into, you know, forklifts that lift 40-foot containers and so on. And so he actually saw the application of those bearings actually don't need to spin. So they actually only have a limited amount of spin in it, yeah. And he said, that's an application for suspension pivots, because suspension pivots basically do this.
Yeah.
And so that was where this came from. So remove the retainer, put the maximum number of balls inside, which then vastly increases the loading capacity of the bearing. And we see we're not the only people now that make this type of bearing. So I guess the proof is, you know, it's we've been emulated, let's say, across the industry, which is fine. That's the way the world is.
It's definitely the bulk of our stock holding downstairs is the max capacity for suspension pivot bearings. On these max capacity bearings, this is a suspension pivot job that is really, really important for local bike shops to do, because investing in the vast array of tools, and they're quite expensive tools as well, is often prohibitive to the home mechanic. That, coupled with the idea that you're dealing with very small bearings that are often corroded into carbon frames, it's a job you have to be really, really careful with, and having good tools definitely helps. Quick sidebar on the tool, here's a good example. We have dozens and dozens of these. These are bearing pullers, so we put this on and tighten up, and the bearing pulls into this cup here. We always like to pull a bearing out if we can with a screw thread, as opposed to knock it. This is a really cool tool from a company called Alt with like an offset bearing extractor. So as you turn this, it gradually works its way around the bearing and pulls it out. If we really, really have to, we'll use a slide hammer. And if we do, we actually do use the Enduro slide hammer, because they've got really precise collets, and these work really well to make sure that we're pulling out in a nice linear fashion. So lots of expensive tools to make sure that we are pushing the bearings in accurately and also removing them without doing any damage to your very expensive carbon frame. So it's a very labor intensive job, and whenever we do it, we always recommend our customers fit good quality bearings. These black oxide ones are what we normally recommend. This gives you another layer of corrosion resistance, which you'll hear about later in the video. And Enduro really do have the monopoly on this in the cycling market, because not only do they offer these bearings in sizes and corrosion resistance levels, they also offer them in all the weird and wonderful sizes that designers come up with. So we have things like flanged and extended and extended on both sides, or some of these really, really tiny ones that go right down in the chainstay pivots that are often double backed as well. So yeah, Enduro bearings, we always recommend it. If you're going to spend a lot of time on labour, it's worth investing. It's a few more pounds in some good quality bearings to make that labour time worth a little bit more. And part of the interest of you coming on the show was I reviewed your Maxhit bottom brackets a little while ago, and in that was like, this is a fantastic product, but like the warranty is confusing. So you're here today to give us some good news, and also to reiterate that this Maxhit product is for mountain biking. The clue's in the name, Maxhit. You're going to hit this hard with some impact.
Gravel as well.
I mean, it's basically the Maxhit concept is there is no drop-in bearing.
Yeah.
So you remove the outer race of a normal cartridge bearing, allows more space to fit bigger balls inside. And what that does is, obviously, with the maximum, you want more load capacity, essentially. So for certainly for bigger hit bikes, mountain bikes, anything that you ride in, or gravel bikes as well, it really is a great concept, because bigger balls have a bigger contact patch on the race. So it actually reduces friction as well as you use it more. And as the seals bed in, it will become freer. It will spin really well. But it's a 7 times greater load capacity.
Yeah.
So you can, on big bikes and e-bikes especially. So we do a headset as well, which that one there, that's a lower ZS56
Yeah, these are
headset.
Now we're talking 40 kilo,
that's it.
bikes, taking
exactly
big
that,
hits.
exactly.
These are amazing. Yeah.
And that's the whole concept with that, really, is for maximum durability.
Yeah.
That's the whole concept with Maxhit. With this product as well, it does come with a lifetime warranty, which we mentioned before.
The review that I think a lot of people see, it's been quite a popular review for us. I was like, this is a fantastic product. I really see this, but they're like 280 quid, I think.
180.
180, sorry. So what is really lifetime? And there's a few caveats to your warranty as well at the time, wasn't there?
The original wording perhaps was a little bit unclear. Okay. So that has been revised now. So with Maxhit, it's a lifetime warranty. The big thing with our warranty on Maxhit and XT15 when we get to it is it covers corrosion. So there's very few, if any, other bottom brackets that are covering corrosion.
You're telling me that you've got a lifetime anti-corrosion guarantee?
Yep.
Being like Ron Seal.
Basically, yeah.
That's bold.
But because it's a 440C stainless steel, we know that it's not going to corrode in the same way that a chromium steel would.
Okay.
So 440C in the right conditions over a very long period of time will show signs of corrosion, but it's not like a chromium steel bearing which will corrode. If you go out and ride now in the rain and you put your bike away for a week and then you get it out and your headset's all stiff, that sort of thing, where basically the water's dried out and within the bearing itself there's rust.
Okay.
So you don't get that because it's stainless steel.
So for clarification, and direct from the horse's mouth, what is the warranty situation on Maxhit bearings?
So the warranty, it covers it for life, but the only thing that's we've changed in the warranty terms is that it should be serviced once a year.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because it's stainless steel, it does need grease.
Okay. And your idea of a service involves?
So the service involves you can, if you're competent as a consumer or as a dealer, it basically pop the seals off.
So this is
so you can either
green that you can see here.
Yeah.
Pop that off with a
scalpel blade. Yeah. Usually go from the inner race.
Leave that off. Yeah.
Yeah. Clean it out. So you can either, the best way and the most effective is in an ultrasonic cleaner, which, for you guys and dealers, that's an easy way. Yeah. But if you want to leave it in the bike, you can just pop the seal off, spray it out with a degreaser, let it dry out, re-grease it, put the seal back on.
Any particular degreasers? We probably use WD-40 contact cleaner or disc brake cleaner, something like that.
Yeah, like that. It's fine.
Flush it.
None of it. Yeah. Flush it out as most as you can. And then just re-grease it, put the seal back on.
Do you have
if ever you were to damage the seal, we deliver with extra seals in the box.
Yeah. These are those Maxhit bearings. The one where it said came with a great lifetime warranty, but also slightly more expensive, and the warranty had lots of limitations to it as well. We cleared that up in the interview, but also broached that a subject where we thought this was really just for mountain biking because of the friction. That's how it was initially advertised. They've just put a test report out, which I'll show you later on in the video, saying that these are actually a very good application for road. However, they might be deemed a little bit heavy for some roadies. So to put that to the test, 49.1 grams. Remember, this is all made out of steel. Compare that to a Dura Ace, bottom bracket, at 31. So fairly significant for all you real weight greenies. That's a 20 gram difference. Now, I know some of you out there will be asking about press fit. So this is a press fit one here. It comes in at 32. So this is marginally heavier, but remember, you'd press this directly into the carbon, whereas this is going to require some sort of thread application as well to add to the weight. While Mike and Andy were just about wrapping up, they presented me with the latest Enduro bearing test report. Now, it's been a number of years since they last produced one of these, and it actually came up with some pretty interesting results, and I've had a chance to go through it now. My initial reactions to it were like, are you sure? That doesn't really necessarily reflect my experiences, and now I've had a chance to read through the test protocol. Now, the test protocols definitely favour a bearing manufacturer that's edging towards more durability as opposed to one that's chasing performance gain through less friction. However, a few things struck out to me, and again, they have acknowledged it as well in a separate piece of paper when they talk about some of their findings, whereas some things we know, BB Infinite performed quite badly, but again, I think we've covered that in the channel before, where we normally just use their precision bottom brackets and then would fit our own bearings. So you might have seen that when we did that with the Campagnola bearings inside a BB Infinite shell, or we've taken the BB Infinite bearings out and replaced them with NTN bearings when we can't get hold of Hambini BB386 Evos. So we're kind of aware of that. Their top of the range ones are actually pretty good. Chris King performed really, really badly on this, and that really surprised me because I think anybody that owns a Chris King bottom bracket will tell you that the durability is not to be questioned. It has been lasting and lasting. They're very, very happy with the performance of that. And in their extra report, they do acknowledge why they think Chris King fared badly, and it was to do with the amplified load. Essentially what they're trying to do is maintain a standard 100 RPM, but then increase the loading on that bearing until it fails. There's a whole bunch of stuff on here about how they amplify the load to speed up the test, and that all kind of makes sense. Things like SRAM actually fared quite well, to be fair, considering the price, they say, and a lot of their bottom bracket bearings actually performed quite well because it actually looked like you were putting in less watts as the bearing kind of wore in. Now, like I say, it does definitely favour, I think, a bearing that's designed with durability in mind, not necessarily one that's got performance in mind. But I think this is going to be on their website pretty soon. Go and take a look, and please add your comments down below. One thing they do mention though is that corrosion is the biggest killer of bearings, which of course this test doesn't acknowledge. So with that in mind, let's hear what they have to say about that.
So
you've actually got some examples here of the corrosion, I think, haven't you? So
we amuse ourselves to look at, this is a material story.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And what we've done a few shows now is we actually have a fish tank and aquarium, where at the start of the show we'll hang in a various number of bearings going from Chromium Steel up to our XT15 and just see what happens in the salty water over the 4 days. Mm-hmm. And you'll see that, including our ABX3, it will corrode over the few days.
Yep.
And moving up to the XT15, it's absolutely spotless. So, yep. And these are just some examples of things which have been in
just talk me through. So we've got here a standard 6806 bearing, which is not an Enduro one, I don't think.
That's not, but I know this one is an Enduro. Yeah. That's an ABX3.
So you'll normally tell Enduro bearings because they normally come with this blue seal.
That's
so
it.
This is your, I guess, probably your cheapest option.
That's right, yeah. So that's the ABX3.
But then you've got other ones, which this is actually a ceramic hybrid bearing.
Yeah.
Which is
an expensive one.
So these are seized. I mean, I can't.
Yeah, they're seized.
I can't turn that.
This is 4 days in water.
4 days in a tank.
Yeah.
Okay, I've just about got it to move. So this is probably what we would see in a workshop.
Yeah,
exactly.
Someone's been on holiday in Morzine or something, absolutely trashed it, put their bike away, come into us and go, I trashed my bike and it's broken. And this is probably where we would, interestingly, actually get your guys' point in this. We would probably go. We'd probably pull the seal off and see if it's salvageable.
Yeah.
If it was an expensive bearing, we would probably put it through the sonic cleaner, try and salvage it. If it wasn't, we'd probably just go. So interesting where you think that line is, because could that be salvaged?
I think that's probably beyond.
I think that's past it.
See, this goes back to what we're saying about the ceramic hybrid bearings. It's chromium steel races. So it's kind of inevitable that there's going to be rust inside, and especially if it's a bearing that doesn't have full contact seal.
Yeah.
because it won't keep the water out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does spit,
even though it's a ceramic, it hasn't lasted any longer.
That's right.
But if you kept it dry and
and this is an XD15,
and that's been in the tank for 4 days.
They've all been in salty water tank for the same amount of time.
Okay, and I guess you can probably see some rust on there, but it's probably the rust that's come off those.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
So with that, I mean, because it's dual lip seals, so the sealing is better, so it keeps the salt water out a lot easier. But you could pop the seals off, clean it, and just re-grease it if you wanted to. But actually, it spins
perfectly. Yeah.
For me, that's something I'd service. Like if I could just hear that, and I could feel a bit of roughness.
I would, from a price perspective and from a sustainability thing, the more bearings you can salvage and save, the better, rather than just binning them every time. Certainly, ceramic hybrids, I would try and save, because or ceramic bearings, they are expensive. But the reality is, they're going to corrode, and you probably, even if you could get this working reasonable, it's going to be limited life.
One thing I want to bring up before this video comes to an end is just you can't really blanket recommend an Enduro bearing because their range is so extensive and so varied. Here is just a little example. Let's say we're looking at bottom bracket bearings of just a 42mm outside diameter. So your standard BB30 that you might press into, PF30, etc. Now, just looking through this, there's 13 different options. Now, we have the ones at the top of the range. That's relatively easy to understand. We have the XD15 metals in there. And also you have the option of a 29mm bore and a 30mm bore, so you don't necessarily have to run a top hat. Then you have things like the angular contact bearings, and these work slightly different. They work more like a headset bearing, so they'll take a preload from the side as opposed to radial bearings, which are designed to work in a radial loading. Then of course you have the black oxide treated ones for extra corrosion resistance. We then have different types of seals and different types of ceramic hybrids. So it might say ceramic, but it's just the balls that are ceramic, whereas the actual outer race is still chromium steel, which is still the weak point of the bearing. And then of course we have combinations of seals. So you might have a light contact seal on the inside of your frame and a heavy contact seal on the outside of the frame that's exposed to the elements. And of course, sometimes by the time you've filtered it down by your various options, you don't have much choice at all. One thing to look out for though is some Enduro bearings come with what they call a C3 clearance. Now the C3 clearance is the clearance between the outer race and the actual balls on the inside. So if you've been pushing your bearings into a frame and they feel really tight when you got them in, but then you pull them out again and they feel free up, it probably means that the bore that you're pushing it into, i.e. your bottom bracket on your frame, is too tight and it's compressing that bearing. So if that's happening to you, you've got the option of fitting something like a C3 clearance bearing, or come to a shop like us and we'll get the bore on your frame sorted properly. Okay, I realise you've probably still got a question here. So essentially what I'm saying that if an Enduro bearing says ABEC 3, you can assume that also comes with a C3 bearing clearance. Those notes are on their website. If it's an ABEC 5 bearing from Enduro, it's going to be a CN bearing clearance, the same as what you might see on SKF or NTN, unless it specifically says it's a C3 bearing clearance. So the burning question I know you must be having by now, how the hell do I choose a bearing? Well, if you're looking at something like the NTN bearings that Hambini talks about, remember all of these are made for industrial applications and made out of a chromium steel, which means they will rust, and corrosion is probably the biggest killer of bearings. Both the low contact and the high contact steel, both chromium steel, and they're on a CN clearance. So if you've got something that's very precise and you know you're going to be riding in good weather conditions, these are probably a good option. If you know that you don't have something that's built so precise and you're going to be riding in rough conditions, like, to be honest, most cycling applications, then something from Enduro might work. However, how do you choose? You see, there aren't any really direct equivalents in the Enduro range, because the Enduro range is mostly the low contact seal, whereas NTN do offer the mid contact seal. But Enduro do offer stainless steel versions, so you often find the stainless steel either angular contact or radial with a green seal. This is probably the most corrosion resistant, especially the XD15. In fact, a hierarchy of that would be XD15 is probably the most corrosion resistant, then followed by stainless steel, then followed by that back oxide that we talked about, and then we're into our standard chromium, whether it's with ceramic balls or not, as the lowest one. So sometimes a blue seal Enduro bearing like this is probably no better than a standard non-branded bearing, although you might get some reassurance from some better quality checking that might go on with a branded bearing. It's not until you move into the black oxide ceramic hybrids and the stainless steel that you're getting a superior product. Hope that helps. Now, when you came into the shop, actually, I was asking the guys downstairs and everything. I said, what do you want to see from Enduro? What's the dream product? And they're like, I want to see like XD15 headset bearings throughout the range, every single one. And I was like, that'd be the dream. Now, for you guys, why we were so keen on that is because, as you know, internally routing cables through your headset now is a very common thing. Mountain biking, e-bikes, everything, everyone's doing it. And it's a massive job to do it. And so the XD15 for us was like, it would save us a job. But that's not what you're doing.
No.
So you're not going to bring XD15 to headset bearings.
No.
What are you doing instead?
So basically with XD15, it's a very expensive product.
Yeah.
Which, you know, to manufacture and to bring in new sizes is costly. But we already have our 440C stainless steel bearings, which we've done for years and years, and we sell a lot of. And they are basically bomb-proof as far as a headset bearing goes. You know, they're a max complement. They're filled full of waterproof grease. We basically don't get any issues with them. We are going to roll out basically a lifetime warranty on those bearings going forward. So that will cover anything. You know, there's no service stipulation on that, because the problem with your integrated cable routing is not the cost of the bearing, it's the cost of the labour to do the actual repair. So if we can provide a bearing that's going to last for 3, 4, 5 years, because it is a bearing, it will wear out eventually in the right, people ride. And people ride in the winter and everything else. So no bearing is ever going to last, for eternity, because it will wear eventually. But if you can spend 300 quid on repair once every 3, 4 years, as opposed to every 8 months.
So when you say a lifetime warranty, you still see the lifetime of a bearing being...
It's so subjective to the lifetime of a bearing, isn't it? Because it depends on use and everything else. But the warranty will, if you wear it out in 5 years, we would give you a new bearing.
The thing is, Paul, we want to be easy to work with. And the most important thing for us is we've got happy customers. And as I say for you guys, it's what you do as well. So we honestly it'll be quibble free. We're not going to go into a big discussion about this, that, or the next thing. If the guy's got a problem, we're just going to replace the bearing. It's as simple as that, honestly. And it's much, much more important to us for the cost of a bearing.
Sure.
To keep the customer and keep your customer happy. We'd rather just do that.
As you can see, Andy, Mike and I had a great time geeking out over bearings for a full 45 minutes. And if you want to watch that podcast, you can watch the entire thing on our new podcast channel. In fact, while you're over there, please subscribe. We're trying to build that channel up so we can give you guys even more great content where we can do much more immediate comment analysis, answer your questions, while keeping this main channel for really good stories and good quality content for you to enjoy. With that all said, please get your comments and your questions down below in the comments. I'll try and answer as many as I possibly can. I realise this is a pretty tricky subject. Until the next time, take it easy.